So, what if the rules for a really good life weren't some complex philosophy, but a series of simple, actionable gifts? We're going to dive into a pretty fascinating story from our source material about this privileged young guy who was given a challenge instead of an inheritance, a challenge that basically forced him to discover these rules for himself. All right, so our story kicks off where a lot of family dramas do, in a lawyer's office. The billionaire Red Stevens has just passed away, and all his relatives are, circling, just waiting to hear what they're going to get from his massive estate. And in that crowd is his great nephew, Jason, a 24-year-old who's lived his entire life in pure luxury. He's expecting a huge payday. But, oh boy, his great uncle had something totally different planned. So when it's Jason's turn, the lawyer hits him with this baffling line you see here: nothing and everything. I mean, can you imagine? Jason is just fuming, thinking he's been totally cut off. What he doesn't get yet is that he's just been handed the key to this year-long challenge, all guided by recorded messages from his late uncle. So yeah, no instant fortune for Jason. Instead, he gets what his uncle called the ultimate gift. But here's the catch. He has to complete a totally unique task every single month for a whole year, and if he fails even once, he gets nothing. This isn't a path to easy money. It's a quest designed to make him whole. And this is what kicks off Jason's quest. But you have to wonder, why would a billionaire go to all this trouble? Well, in his first video message, Red Stevens reveals his deepest regret. He believed that by just giving his family everything they wanted, he'd rob them of the struggles and the lessons that made his own life so rich. Jason was his last hope, this one final shot to pass on what truly matters. And this right here, this really captures the whole conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Jason's world: money, ease, luxury. And on the other, his uncle's plan: challenge, growth, and real connection. See, Red Stevens knew that true wealth isn't something you can just inherit. It's got to be earned. And this entire year was designed to bridge that massive gap. So the journey begins with two things Jason was absolutely sure he understood perfectly: work and wealth. But as he was about to find out, he didn't really have a clue about either one. The first gift is the gift of work. And Jason, who is the definition of a city slicker, gets shipped off to a Texas cattle ranch. For a whole month, he's doing truly backbreaking labor. We're talking digging post holes, mending fences under the scorching sun. And somewhere in all that sweat and effort, he discovers something totally new to him: a sense of pride in a job well done. Next up, the gift of money. Jason gets handed $1,500 with a simple instruction: find people who really need it and just give it away. He finds a family who can't afford Christmas gifts, an elderly woman who needs medicine, a guy who can't get to work because his car's broken. He gets so into it that he ends up dipping into his own pocket, learning for the very first time that money isn't the prize. It's a tool, and its real value is in what it can do for other people. Then came the gift of friends. Jason learns this absolutely incredible story about his Uncle Red and the rancher Gus. Their friendship was so strong that when times got tough, they would secretly brand some of their own cattle with the other guy's mark, basically giving them away to help each other out with no fanfare. What a lesson, right? True friendship is about loyalty and selfless support, not just who you know. Now, just when Jason's starting to feel like he's getting the hang of this whole thing, the journey takes a really sharp emotional turn. He's about to learn a lesson that won't just challenge him, it's going to completely flip his entire perspective on life. So his new task is to find people with real problems. And for Jason, this just feels like a cruel joke. I mean, he's the one with problems, right? He's broke, he's confused, he feels like he's about to lose everything. So he does what any of us might do. He goes and plops down on a park bench to just wallow in self-pity. And that is when he meets Emily. She's this little girl on a swing, just full of joy and life, and she invites him to share her special day in the park. It's only later that he finds out the heartbreaking truth from a volunteer. Emily has terminal cancer, and this day in the park is her final wish. Spending that one day with Emily, a little girl facing something unimaginable with nothing but courage and pure joy, it just completely shatters Jason's worldview. His own problems suddenly seem so small, so insignificant. He learns this profound lesson you see right here. Joy isn't about having no problems. It's found in overcoming them, or maybe just in the joyful spirit you bring to the life you've got. So that experience of seeing beyond himself was a massive turning point. From this moment on, Jason's lessons start to shift.
They become about building a life of purpose, and that starts with dreams, giving, and gratitude. For the first time, really, Jason is forced to ask himself this huge question. What do I actually want to do with my life? Not just drift along, but actually have a dream. And he realizes he wants to help young people who, kind of like the old hymn, had everything they could want, but still had no purpose.
Next came the gift of giving. For a whole month, his task was to give something of himself every single day. As you can see, this could be anything from reading to kids or helping a neighbor. He learned really quickly that real giving wasn't about money. It was about his time, his effort, his compassion. And in that act of giving, he found this deep sense of fulfillment. And finally, Jason receives the gift of gratitude. His uncle shares this simple but incredibly powerful daily exercise he learned from an old friend, a practice that's designed to shift your entire mindset from always wanting more to appreciating what you already have. And the process here is just so brilliantly simple, right? Instead of waking up focused on what you don't have, you consciously start the day by listing 10 things you're thankful for. It's a tiny daily habit, but as Jason learned, it's an act that can completely transform your life. So at the end of his year, Jason got his ultimate gift. And it wasn't a pile of money. It was a new perspective, a clear purpose, and a set of rules for a meaningful life. His journey gives us one powerful framework. But what about others? I mean, just look at this timeline of his transformation. From the foundational lessons in work and money to that deeply emotional lesson of problems, all the way to dreams and gratitude. Each gift built on the last, taking him from this self-centered kid to a man with empathy and purpose. Sure, he might have gotten his inheritance in the end, but what he truly gained was a life actually worth living. So Jason's whole journey was about discovering a set of personal rules through his own lived experience. And this made the writer of our source material think about a different kind of guide, a set of rules that isn't discovered, but revealed. He asks, what if the simplest, most profound rules for living have actually been with us all along, in the form of the 10 Commandments? And it's a pretty fascinating comparison when you lay them out like this. The ultimate gift is a modern, personal journey. It's a story of learning by doing. The 10 Commandments are a timeless, universal code, a set of direct principles for how to live. One is found, the other is given. But both, in their own way, are aiming to provide a blueprint for a good life. And that really brings everything back to this final question. Jason Stevens had to go through a whole year of trials to find his rules. For thousands of years, countless others have found theirs in ancient texts. What both of these paths show us is that a meaningful life is often built on a foundation of simple, guiding principles. So the real question this whole story leaves us with is, what are yours?